Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to the LO3 podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild and wonderful Mountain State. And today's date is Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Yes, it's nice and chilly up in West Virginia. And, I'm enjoying it. Isolated. No congestions, which is all well and good. It's interesting because the big movement of defund the police, defend the police. You got both presidential candidates claim to be pro law and order and all that. Is always, you got to look at things a lot broader than what it is. Even if you put a big budget in, there's no guarantees. Because technically the police aren't obligated to protect you. And many of the states have still used the qualified immunity. And I'm not here to bash police or deputies by any means. Always expect rogue elements in these particular institutions, which is nothing new. They're everywhere. So when you go out there and stand for either side, you better make sure you look at the bigger picture. Both sides have a little faction game on this particular subject. So I'm gonna narrate an article by Mises.org, and it's written by Ray McMacken. It came out yesterday. This is entitled, "Despite Big Budgets, Police Are Catching Very Few Real Criminals." In Tuesday's debate, former Vice President Joe Biden declared he was opposed to defund the police movement. In the general election, this is not a terribly bold statement on Biden's part. According to numerous polls, the public has little enthusiasm for sizable cuts to police agencies. Most people, it seems, recognize that some sort of security or law enforcement plays a valuable role in most communities. This doesn't mean, of course, that this crime-fighting agency need necessarily be monopolistic organization or a government agency. Unfortunately, however, it is nowadays accepted as a given that law enforcement is a job for government bureaucracy funded by taxes with no legal competitors. But whenever one may think are the advantages of government-controlled police agency, we always encounter the big problem with government monopolies. They offered low-quality service at a higher price than would be the case with private firms. It should not be shocking, then, that in a new and lengthy article forthcoming from the Alabama Law Review, the author found that police agencies have a very poor record in solving crimes and bringing criminals to justice. Lack of police effectiveness and accountability. It is remarkably difficult to find data on how skilled and effective police are at finding and arresting guilty parties, and often these events lead to a conviction. All too often, researchers and journalists end up relying on clearance rates, which are the rate at which police make arrests for reported crimes and turn arrest suspects over to prosecutors. In some cases, the police may be said to have a clean case when a suspect dies before he can be arrested, or if the police have determined the case has been resolved in some other way. Police agencies themselves often publish this information, and these numbers can be easily manipulated because the police determine if a case has been resolved based on their own judgment about a suspect whose guilt has never been proven. Thus, more accurate readers will immediately begin to see some of the problems with using clearance rates as a measure of police effectiveness. Just because police make an arrest doesn't mean they've caught the guilty party. Just because police make an arrest doesn't mean the police have collected enough evidence to lead to a verdict of guilt. Remember, a suspect can be arrested without any proof. Okay? So that's like a definition for a suspect. Moreover, clearance rates rarely attempt to take into account crimes that occurred but never reported to police. These numbers are certainly non-negligible. Yet, even when using this clearance data published by the police themselves, we're left with a picture of a police mediocrity where fewer than half of violent crimes lead to any sort of satisfactory resolution. But now research from University of Utah legal scholar Shima Baradharan Bogman suggests that even these traditional clearance rate based numbers of police success are actually much too high. If we measure police effectiveness considering the overwhelming number of crimes not reported to police, individuals who are apprehended but not to turn over to prosecutors, and crimes resolved without arrest throughout alternative means, the numbers look very different. Taking factors outside the usual clearance rate data into account, Bogman concludes police are ineffective at solving major crimes, and police are much less effective than we might think at solving all major crimes, and have not significantly improved in the last 30 years. When it comes to reported crimes, the statistics grim enough. In 2006, there were 14,948 reported murders, and of those, 8,845 people are convicted, federal and state. So, that is a total number of 59% of murders resulting in a conviction. So, in other words, 41% of murderers got away with murder. For other crimes, it is a lot worse. If we're a total of 760,753 reported aggravated assaults in 2006 and 101,108 aggravated assault convictions, that means 13% of individuals who committed assaults are responsible, or in other words, 87% who committed aggravated assault are not convicted of it. But there are only reported crimes. Surveys, on the other hand, have long suggested that it is common for victims not to report crimes to police, and in many cases, 35 to 40% of the time, victims fail to report crimes to police precisely because they believe that the police would not or could not help. It is estimated, for instance, that while the overwhelming majority of homicides were reported through official channels, only 17% of rapes were reported in 2018, and fewer than half of robberies were reported to authorities. Once these known crimes are included, we find clearance rates far lower. In 1990, the overall true percent of crimes cleared was 10.3%. In 1998, the true percent cleared was 7.92. For 2004 and 2006, the overall true percent cleared was 9.26% and 9.19%, respectively. For 2009, police improved clearance to 12.10% of overall crimes, and in 2014, it was finally 11.71%. Finally, in 2018, the overall true percents cleared went back down to 10.61%. Overall, true clearance in the last 30 years remained around 10%. Conviction rates are even worse. While examining the total number of convictions against the total number of known crimes, Bogman finds the true conviction rate was 1.65% in 1990 and 1.35% in 1998, 1.81% in 2004, and 1.9% in 2006. Yeah. Woo. Oh, I get a little echo here. That is to say that the conviction rate for the major crimes in these sample years is less than 2% per year. The true conviction rate was by far the highest for homicide, 59%. But from there, conviction drops off precipitously. Only 12% of rapes and only 7% of aggravated assaults led to convictions. Police agencies, of course, can't be found totally at fault for a lack of convictions. but they do play a major role in building the case and providing prosecutors with necessary evidence. Apparently, the police are failing to do so in great many cases. Taxpayers are paying big money for a few convictions. And how much are the taxpayers paying for these services? Plenty. In a recent article for Vox, Sean Collins examined the large and growing number of dollars handed out by officials to police departments. Yet, in spite of the taxpayers paying ever large sums for police departments, clearance rates have remained fairly stable for several decades, despite increases in police budgets, suggesting that giving departments more money does not necessarily result in better outcomes. Moreover, Collins finds, according to the most recent data available for the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2017, state and local governments spent $114 billion on police forces and $78.8 billion on prisons. Policing can take up a large chunk of the city budget. For instance, Chicago planned to spend $2 billion, 15% of its budget, on its police force in 2020. Meanwhile, police departments nationwide have been paying out hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayers' money to settle legal cases stemming from police brutality incidences. Taxpayers are getting ripped off. In spite of all this, American residents regularly report a high degree of confidence in police departments. According to a 2020 survey by Pew Research, 58% majority of Americans say police around the country do an excellent job or a good job of protecting people from crime, which has little change from a share who stand this 4 years ago, 62%. Yeah, high costs and poor performance are exactly what we should expect from a monopolistic government agency that faces no competition and can rely on regular infusion of tax dollars. In a private marketplace, a firm that provides so little bang for the buck is likely to be quickly replaced by competitors. The presence of multiple firms in the policing industry will drive down prices while firms sought to advertise their abilities to get the bad guys at higher rates than their competition. Some might argue, of course, that a system of competing private security firms is undesirable and impractical and insufficiently responsive to the public. This notion, however, must be weighed against the apparent fact that the status quo police departments have little to show for themselves in terms of bringing criminals to justice, even with enormous taxpayer-funded budgets. On the other hand, current political realities do not appear to be a sizable problem for these police agencies. The current debate over police powers and police effectiveness is concentrated on police treatment of suspects and police brutality, and not on the track record police have in finding and arresting thieves and murderers. Even this can be traced to the monopoly enjoyed by police organizations. Public employees unions and immunity protection for police have done much to shield police from public accountability. Private sector's community workers enjoy no such advantages. Yet, it remains unclear that all these efforts by police to harass and investigate residents for petty infractions like drug possession, jaywalking, do anything to assist the police in addressing more serious criminal acts like robberies and rapes. Police departments devote numerous sums of tracking down small-time drug dealer and traffic law violators. Less than 5% of police staff in many cities are devoted to investigating homicides. Meanwhile, a majority of violent crime victims will never see justice done for the crimes they have endured. And there's the links on here too. You can read it for yourselves. Interesting. Indeed. This is why, my friends, technically the police aren't obligated on protecting an individual. Now, I know I harped this multiple times on my regular listeners, but it is a fact. Sovereign immunity and tort liability. And, of course, I remember listening to interviews from Dale Carson in the book Arrest Proof Yourself. A lot of the police are more like deputies of Nottingham, or other words, revenue collecting agents. Fortunately, in Florida, if a city or town or municipality, that's their main revenue is ticketing people, it's become illegal, especially because a lot of it's been done arbitrarily, discriminatory, or in bad faith. Stick to the principles. That's why for many years I tell people I support peace officers. Keep the peace in the community the best they can. The drug war is a sham. Asset forfeiture needs to go. See, all this, asset forfeiture and getting money, grants from the federal government, don't mean dilly squat. To me, it's more like extortion. Do I hate the police? Absolutely not. There's some good folks out there. My stepfather was a deputy and a DEA agent, and he told me some interesting stories. We had great discussions, by the way, on this matter, which is cool. No yelling or screaming, it's all in good faith, all out of finesse. We don't let our passions go, but we just look at the bigger picture. And it's very cool, and I always admire that. And hey, even if I have my disputes with police officers, as in the past, it's mainly on the principle, and that's it. No bitterness. But one thing we gotta look at, we have to always see, you're gonna throw money at them, how's it gonna benefit the city, my community, or your fellow constituents in that municipality or state? That is vital. You have to address that at your commission's meetings, whether it's county, city, or state. It doesn't matter. These are the areas we need to focus on. Regardless of factions, defund and support the police, wearing blue lives matter, all that. Always observe responsibly before jumping on some parade. All right, well, and that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. Furthermore, I will post this link on my Spreaker page, and if you want to email me something, you can hit me at LokiLuck3, the number 3, at gmail.com, or LokiLuck numbers 03, okay, at protonmail.com. If you want to do a donation, you can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck number 3, and even support Mises.org. You know, they're good people and very liberty-minded. That's what I always admire, narrating their articles and reading their stuff. More of an educational perspective. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.